In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Illustrator to draw an ice cream bar similar to this one. This is the inspiration image, and I put that on the MacArts website for you. So if you go there and scroll down to the section that says Illustrator Projects, you can see the inspiration image right here. Go ahead and click it to make it large, then right-click and copy image. Go back to Illustrator and go to File, New. I'm going to choose Web Document and use the common size, which is 1366 by 768. I'm going to title this Ice Cream Bar and put my name on it. And click Create. Here's my nice blank document. Now I will go to Edit, Paste to get my inspiration image. Now I want my inspiration image to fit, so I'm going to use the selection tool, which is this dark arrow up here, and hold down Shift and use only the corner to shrink this. I use Shift and the corners because I don't want to distort the image by squishing it or making it all stretched out. And I also don't want to accidentally click on this and move it. So over here in the Layers panel, by the way, if Layers isn't showing, it's these two overlapping diamond shapes, then you can simply go to Window and open any of the panels from this list. So here's Layers right here. So in Layers, I'm going to click this little submenu to see everything that's included on Layer 1, and I'm going to click in this empty box right here to put a padlock. Now if I click on this image, it's not selected and I don't take the chance of moving it or accidentally deleting it. So I'm going to recreate this ice cream bar shape right here. These are my inspiration images. And I'm going to go ahead and draw my shapes right over the tops of these so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to get the magnifying glass and make this larger. If you hold down the space bar, it turns the magnifying glass into the hand. And I'm going to make that nice and large so I can see what I'm doing. I am going to choose to use the rounded rectangle tool. So go ahead and click and hold on the shape tools to pop open the side menu and choose the one that says rounded rectangle. Right now the color in my fill is white and the color in my stroke is none, which those colors will work just fine for this part of the project. If you do have something on your stroke, then pop it forward and change it to none. So let's see, I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag and draw out my rounded rectangle, and I haven't got it lined up precisely, so while I still have the mouse depressed, I can hold down the space bar at the same time and I can move this selection around. So I'm going to line this up, let go of the space bar, and that looks very good right there. You'll notice these little circle icons in the corners. With the rounded rectangle tool, I can select those and change the shape of this curve up here at the top. So I am going to use the black arrow, which is the selection tool, click on this one so it's highlighted, hold down Shift on the keyboard and click on this one. Now they're both selected, so I can just click and drag and they both move at the same time. So let's see, I want this to look, well, so it turned red because that's as far as it will go, and I think that looks like a really good curve, so I'm going to stop right there. And it matched the inspiration image pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. I noticed that the inspiration image, the ice cream bar, is tapered at the top a little bit, so to do that I'm going to click the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and click on this anchor point, which is a little square, and then I'm going to switch to the arrow keys on the keyboard and I'm just going to click over, 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 until I get kind of a tapered shape. That was one click too many, so I'm going to go back one. Now I'm going to go and do the same thing to this side. So I will select the anchor point and then use my arrow keys to nudge this over. I went a little bit too far, so I'll go back. All right, now I'm going to add some color to this. And to do that, I'm going to use a gradient. So over here in the swatches panel, and if you don't have the swatches panel, just go to Window and look on the list. It's in alphabetical order, and choose swatches, and it will pop open here on the side. I'm going to choose the default gradient, which is white to black. Oh, so I made a mistake, and the mistake was that I had my stroke forward instead of my fill forward. So I'm going to change my stroke back to none and then click to bring my fill forward. Then I'm going to go back and open up swatches again and choose the white to black gradient. Now I want to modify that. I want to change the colors and the direction. So I'm going to open the gradient panel, which is right here. If your gradient panel isn't showing, again, just go to Windows and from the alphabetical list, choose gradient and it will pop open. The first thing that I'm going to do is change the angle to minus 90 degrees so that the black is at the bottom and the white is at the top. Next, I'm going to change the colors. To do that, I'm going to open up the swatches panel, but I want more options than this limited list right here. So what I'm going to do is pop open this side menu and go to Open Swatch Library, Color Books, and one of my favorite color books is Pantone Solid Coated. And I have moved the panel over here to the side and stretched it open so that I can see lots of colors all at once. So I have to reopen my gradient panel, and what I'm going to do is take a dark orange and drop it right on top of this black slider. I'm going to take a bright yellow and drop it on top of this white slider. And there is this beautiful gradient on my ice cream cone. The next thing that I'm going to do is draw the little stick, the popsicle stick. So I have my popsicle selected right now, so I'm going to click off of it to make it deselect. Now I'm going to select the rounded rectangle tool again, and I don't want it to be this color, a gradient. So I'm going to go over here and choose a different color. Let's try, maybe this looks like a nice brownish color. So we'll see how that turns out. So I'm just going to click and drag the popsicle stick down here underneath. And that looks pretty good. But I don't want it on top of the popsicle, I want it underneath. So there's two different ways to do that. You can open up the layers panel and you can simply click and drag this underneath the popsicle, or on the keyboard you can hold down Control and use the left bracket, which is next to P on the keyboard, and that is the keyboard shortcut to make whatever layer you have go underneath the previous layers. Okay, so far so good. So I'm going to deselect this. The keyboard shortcut to deselect is Control-Shift-A, or you can simply click one of the selection tools and click off to the side to deselect an object. You'll notice that these popsicles have this interesting dot pattern on it, which gives it just a little bit of pizzazz. So I'm going to create that dot pattern on top of this popsicle. So I'm going to go ahead and click the top layer here and change this to the rectangle tool instead of the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm going to estimate right about here. You can just eyeball it, and this is where actually I want it down a little bit, so I'm going to hold down the space bar and move it down. This is about where my dots are going to go. Okay, so this doesn't match exactly my popsicle underneath it, so I'm going to use the direct selection tool to select the anchor points one at a time and drag them closer to fit. And this one's off just a smidge. Okay, so I think that looks good. So I will select this. Now I'm going to add a pattern to that. So the pattern is located in the swatches panel. So again, if you can't find swatches, check under Window, and on the alphabetical list, click Swatches. And I'm going to open this side menu, choose Open Swatch Library, Patterns, Basic Graphics, and choose Graphic Dots. So here's all of these different dot patterns, and I want one where it's kind of close together, so I might choose this one and I might choose that one. We'll see. But you'll notice that the dots are really huge compared to the examples, the inspiration image. So how do we change that? We use the scale tool, which is right here. It's two overlapping squares with a little arrow pointing up. So I will click that, double click it, there we go. And let's see, a previous user had 50% in here. So I'm going to change this back to 100 for a minute. And I don't want to transform the object, so I'm going to take that off. I do want to transform the patterns, and I do want to scale the strokes and effects, so I will leave those checked. And I do want to see a preview, so I will leave this box checked. So let's see, I'm going to start off just by guessing. How about 75%? And I'll toggle the preview to see what it looks like. Still a little bit too big. So now I will try 50%, toggle the preview. I think 50% is just the right size, so I will click OK. But I don't want my dots to be orange, so how can I change that? Well, there's lots of different ways to do it. I'll show you one way. I'm going to go over here to the Appearance panel. And if the Appearance panel isn't showing, just go to Window and from the alphabetical list, choose Appearance. So in the Appearance panel, I have this opacity that's underlined. If I click that, I get this Blending Modes box. And under the Blending Modes box, I can try these one at a time: darken, multiply, color burn, and keep going until I find one that I like. I do like screen, but I like color dodge better, and I like overlay a lot. So I would go through these one at a time until you find one that you really like. So for me, it's a choice between color dodge and overlay. And I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with overlay in this case. Alright, so with the one of the selection tools, I'm going to click off of this and see what I have so far. So far, I really like it. I think it looks great. I'm going to create a box behind it so that I don't see all of my inspiration image. So I will select the rectangle tool, and I don't want it to be a dot pattern. So I'm going to go back to here's my Pantones hidden, my Pantone tab hidden back here. And I think that a turquoise blue color would look fantastic. So let's try maybe this one right here. And there's no stroke on it. So I will go ahead and click and drag a box around this, and I will hold down spacebar so that I can move the box. And do you remember the keyboard shortcut to have that go behind? Control bracket, which is next to P. So I'm just going to hit that. There we go. Now the last thing, let me get the hand here, is that all of these have also the dots creating a shadow behind them. So I'm also going to add that to this project. And the way that I'm going to do that is just to copy the ice cream and the stick and turn those into the dots. So over here in the layers panel, the overlapping diamonds, if yours isn't showing, again, go to the window and open layers from here. So in here, here is my popsicle. So I'm going to click inside this circle. And here is my stick. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click inside that circle. So that I have both of those selected at the same time. Then on the keyboard, I'm going to push Control C, which is copy. And then I'm going to go up to Edit, Paste in Back. So you can see that a copy of those got pasted down here. Now I want both of those to be the same object. So what I'm going to do is use the Pathfinder panel to unite those. So under Window, go to Pathfinder and click the first button, which is Unite. So now the stick and the popsicle became one object. So with the selection tool, that is selected, I will use the keyboard, the arrow keys on the keyboard, to just nudge that over and make it be a shadow on the side. Now here's a trick that will save you lots of time and effort in the future. With my shadow selected, if I switch to the eyedropper tool and click right on these dots, it will copy all of the effects and information that have been applied to that, and it will copy it to my new object. So rather than having to go through all those steps, really quickly click and it's finished. So Control Shift A to deselect, and there is my finished popsicle. So I will save that, File, Save, and Ice Cream Bar Justine, I'm going to call it number 2 because I already have 1, and I'm not on my normal computer, so I will save it to the desktop and copy it over later. And continue, and I'm just going to leave all the defaults. Okay. Now I want to put a copy of this into my portfolio, so I'm going to use the snipping tool, click New, and draw a box around the part I want. Then I will click Copy, go to my portfolio, scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to make a new slide with a title. I'll call it Ice Cream Bar, and then right click and paste, and there is my ice cream bar. Now be sure that you save the Adobe Illustrator document, because eventually we're going to use all of the different types of ice cream that we make to create something similar to this invitation right here. That's it for this video.